3 years ago, I walked away from the only woman I ever loved because my family called her a gold digger. Last night, as my dying mother whispered her final confession, I discovered the truth that shattered everything I thought I knew about love, family, and the two children I never knew existed. If you've ever wondered whether love can survive family pressure and hidden secrets, stay with me. This story will change how you think about second chances. Hit that like button if you believe everyone deserves to know the truth. My name is Nathan, and I'm what people call successful. I own 3 companies, drive cars that cost more than most people's houses, and live in a mansion that echoes with loneliness. But success means nothing when you've destroyed the one thing that actually mattered. 3 years ago, I had everything. Not just money, but real happiness. Her name was Jasmine, and she was everything my family thought I didn't deserve. Beautiful, smart, and strong in ways that made me want to be a better man. We met in college when I was still trying to prove I was more than just my father's wallet. She was studying law, working 2 jobs, and somehow still found time to laugh at my terrible jokes. I fell in love with her mind first. The way she'd challenge me during late-night study sessions, never letting me slide by on privilege. She saw through all my defenses and loved the real me underneath. For 4 years, she was my anchor, my reason to wake up excited about life. I thought we'd grow old together, build something beautiful and lasting. But love doesn't exist in a vacuum, does it? My family made their feelings crystal clear from the moment I brought her home for Christmas. The polite smiles that never reached their eyes. The way conversations would die when she entered the room. The subtle comments about her background, her family's financial struggles, her race. My mother was the worst, always finding ways to make Jasmine feel small and unwelcome. "She's not one of us, Nathan," my mother would say whenever we were alone. "Can't you see what she's really after? Girls like her, they see dollar signs when they look at boys like you." Every family dinner became a battlefield. Every holiday was torture. They made Jasmine feel like an outsider, and I was too weak to stop it. The pressure built slowly, like water behind a dam. My father started making threats about the business, about my inheritance. He'd corner me in his office, explaining how marrying beneath my station would ruin everything our family had built. "Think about your legacy," he'd say. "Think about your children's future." The irony of those words burns now, knowing what I know. Then came the ultimatum. I remember that night like it was yesterday. My mother sat me down in her pristine living room, her voice calm, but her words cutting deep. "Choose, Nathan. Your family and everything we've worked for, or her. But you can't have both. We won't stand by and watch you throw your life away for some girl who's using you." I was 26 years old, but I felt like a scared child. The weight of generations of family money, of expectations, of tradition, it all crashed down on me. I convinced myself they were right, that maybe Jasmine was just playing a long game, waiting for the ring and the bank account that came with it. How could someone like her really love someone like me for who I was? So I broke her heart. I said terrible things, things I'll regret until my dying day. I told her she was wasting my time, that she was deluding herself if she thought we had a real future. I watched the light die in her eyes as I spoke those poisonous words. She didn't cry, didn't beg, didn't fight. She just looked at me with a sadness so deep it nearly broke me right there. "I hope you find what you're looking for, Nathan," she said quietly. And then she walked out of my life forever. Within a week, she'd dropped out of school and disappeared. No forwarding address, no mutual friends who knew where she'd gone. It was like she'd never existed, except for the hole in my chest that never quite healed. I threw myself into the family business, became the son they'd always wanted, made more money than I could spend in 3 lifetimes. Dated the right girls, from the right families, played the part perfectly. But every night, alone in my empty mansion, I thought about her, about the life we could have had, about the love I'd thrown away for approval that never felt like enough. Little did I know, the real story was just beginning. Let me take you back to the beginning, to when everything felt possible. I was 22, cocky, and completely unprepared for what real love felt like. It was my senior year at Columbia, and I was coasting through business classes, more focused on weekend parties than actual learning. Then Professor Williams assigned us partners for the final project, and that's when I met her. Jasmine was sitting in the front row, taking notes like her life depended on it. While other students were checking their phones or daydreaming, she was engaged, asking questions that made our professor light up. When he called our names together, I honestly thought I'd gotten lucky. A study partner who'd do all the work while I charmed my way to an easy A. I couldn't have been more wrong. Our first meeting was at the library. I showed up 20 minutes late with a hangover and a Starbucks cup, expecting to find some quiet girl who'd be grateful for my attention. Instead, I found someone who looked me up and down and said, "If you're not serious about this project, tell me now so I can ask for a different partner." No smile, no flirtation, just pure honesty. Something about her directness woke me up. Here was someone who didn't care about my last name or my father's reputation. She cared about excellence, about doing things right. For the first time in my life, I had to earn someone's respect. We spent 3 months working together on that project, and slowly, she began to see past my privileged exterior. I learned that she was working her way through school, sending money home to help her younger brother with his education. She'd grown up in Detroit, raised by a single mother who cleaned office buildings at night to pay the bills. Every opportunity she'd earned through pure determination. "Why law?" I asked her one evening as we sat in the empty library, surrounded by research papers. "Because the system isn't fair," she said simply, "and someone needs to fight for people who can't fight for themselves." The passion in her voice, the fire in her eyes, it was like looking directly into the sun. That's when I fell in love with her mind, her heart, her unwavering sense of justice. She made me want to be worthy of her respect. I started showing up early to our study sessions, actually reading the assignments, contributing real ideas instead of coasting on charm. For the first time, I felt like I was becoming the man I was supposed to be. The night we finished our project, I asked her to dinner. Not some fancy restaurant where I could impress her with my credit card, but a little soul food place she'd mentioned loving. I watched her face light up as she talked about her dreams of opening a practice that would help working families, of making real change in the world. "What about you?" she asked. "What do you actually want to do with your life?" No one had ever asked me that question before. Everyone just assumed I'd take over the family business, follow the path laid out for me since birth. But sitting across from her, seeing the genuine curiosity in her eyes, I found myself saying things I'd never admitted out loud. "I want to build something that matters," I heard myself say. "Not just make money, but create something that makes people's lives better." She smiled then, really smiled, and it was like the whole world shifted into focus. We became inseparable after that. She'd come to my apartment and cook dinner while I attempted to help, usually just getting in her way and making her laugh. I'd drive her to work at the campus bookstore, stealing kisses in the parking lot before her shifts. We'd stay up all night talking about everything and nothing, building dreams together. I loved how she challenged me. When I'd make some thoughtless comment born from privilege, she'd call me out, not meanly, but firmly. She taught me to see the world through different eyes, to understand struggles I'd never faced. She made me better, kinder, more aware of the bubble I'd been living in. The first time I told her I loved her, we were walking through Central Park in the snow. She stopped walking, turned to face me, and for a moment I thought I'd scared her off. Then she cupped my face in her cold hands and said, "I love you too, Nathan. The real you, not the version you think you need to be." Those were the happiest 2 years of my life. But happiness, I learned, can be fragile when it threatens the people who think they own your future. Fast forward 3 years. I was sitting in a sterile hospital room watching my mother die. Cancer had eaten away at her body, but her mind remained sharp until the very end. Sharp enough to carry the weight of what she'd done to me, to Jasmine, to the family I never knew I had. For weeks, I'd been by her bedside, listening to her reminisce about my childhood, about family traditions, about the legacy she was leaving behind. But something was different in those final days. She kept looking at me with this expression I couldn't quite read. Guilt, fear, regret. I thought it was just the morphine making her emotional. The night she died, she was restless. The nurses had dimmed the lights, and it was just the two of us in that quiet room filled with the steady beeping of machines. Her breathing was shallow, labored, but her grip on my hand was surprisingly strong. "Nathan," she whispered, her voice barely audible, "I need to tell you something. Something I should have told you years ago." I leaned closer, thinking she wanted to share some final wisdom, some last declaration of love. Instead, she shattered my entire world with 7 words. Jasmine was pregnant when she left. The words hit me like a physical blow. My chest tightened, and for a moment I couldn't breathe. "What did you say?" "She was pregnant, Nathan, with twins." Her eyes were filled with tears now, years of buried guilt finally breaking free. "A boy and a girl, your children." I felt like I was falling, like the ground had opened up beneath me. "That's impossible. She would have told me. She would have—" "She tried." My mother's voice cracked. "She came to the house 2 weeks after you broke up with her. She was scared, desperate. She wanted to tell you about the babies." The room started spinning. I gripped the sides of her hospital bed, trying to anchor myself to something solid. "What do you mean, she tried?" "I turned her away." The confession came out in broken whispers. "I told her you never wanted to see her again. I told her that if she really loved you, she'd leave you alone. But that wasn't enough. She kept calling, kept trying to reach you." My mother closed her eyes, but the words kept coming, like a dam had finally burst. "So I hired someone, a private investigator. He found out where she was living, where she worked. I had him make her an offer." "What kind of offer?" My voice sounded strange, distant, like it was coming from someone else. "Money. Enough to raise the children comfortably, to start a new life somewhere far away. All she had to do was disappear and never contact you again." My mother's breathing was getting weaker, but she pushed through. "I told her if she ever tried to tell you about the babies, I'd destroy her family financially. Her mother's job, her brother's college fund, everything." I stood up so fast the chair fell backward. The noise echoed in the quiet room, but I barely heard it over the roar of blood in my ears. "You what?" "I thought I was protecting you," she said, reaching for my hand, but I pulled away. "She was going to trap you, ruin your future. I couldn't let that happen." "Trap me?" The words came out as a shout, and I had to force myself to lower my voice. "She was carrying my children, and you called it a trap." I was wrong. The admission was so quiet, I almost missed it. "I watched you these past 3 years, saw how empty you became, how you've never been the same. I realized too late that she wasn't trying to trap you. She loved you. She really loved you." My legs gave out, and I collapsed back into the chair. Somewhere out there, I had 2 children, 2 babies who were now toddlers, walking and talking and living their lives without knowing their father existed, because of my mother's manipulation and my own cowardice. "Where are they?" I asked, my voice hollow. I don't know. My mother was crying now, tears streaming down her gaunt cheeks. She took the money and vanished, changed her name, covered her tracks. The investigator lost contact with her 2 years ago. You stole my children from me. The words felt like they were being torn from my throat. You stole my family. I'm sorry. She was getting weaker now, her voice fading. I'm so sorry, Nathan. Find them. Find your babies. Tell them their grandmother was a foolish, scared old woman who destroyed the most beautiful thing her son ever had. Those were the last coherent words she ever spoke. She died an hour later, leaving me alone with the devastating truth and no idea how to fix what she'd broken. I didn't sleep for 3 days after my mother's funeral. I couldn't eat, couldn't think about anything except finding them. My children. The family I'd unknowingly abandoned because of lies and manipulation. I hired the best private investigators money could buy. Not the corrupt one my mother had used, but legitimate professionals who specialized in finding people who didn't want to be found. I gave them everything I knew about Jasmine, every detail I could remember. Her full name, her hometown, her family members, her dreams of becoming a lawyer. The search took 2 months, 2 months of sleepless nights and dead ends. Jasmine had been thorough in covering her tracks. She'd changed her last name, moved across the country, created an entirely new identity, but eventually we found her. She was living in Portland, Oregon, working as a paralegal at a small family law firm while finishing her degree part-time. She'd kept her promise to help working families, even if it meant taking the long road to get there. And she had them. My children. 2 beautiful 3-year-olds named Lily and Lucas. The investigator showed me photos, and I broke down right there in my office. They had my eyes but her smile. Lily had wild curls like her mother, while Lucas had my stubborn cowlick. They were perfect, and they were strangers to me. I flew to Portland that same day, my hands shaking as the plane landed. I'd rehearsed what I'd say to Jasmine 1,000 times, but every word felt inadequate. How do you apologize for 3 years of absence? How do you explain that you never knew they existed? I found her at a small park near her apartment. She was pushing Lily on a swing while Lucas played in the sandbox nearby. The sight of her took my breath away. She looked older, more tired, but still beautiful, still strong. She was laughing at something Lily said, and the sound hit me like a punch to the chest. Then she saw me. The laughter died on her lips. Her face went pale, then hard. She immediately moved toward Lucas, scooping him up protectively while keeping Lily close. The fear in her eyes was like a knife in my heart. "Jasmine," I said, my voice cracking on her name. "No." She shook her head, backing away. "No, you don't get to show up here. You don't get to do this to us. Please, I need to explain." "Explain what?" Her voice was cold, controlled, but I could see the pain underneath. "How you threw me away like garbage. How you made me feel worthless. How you couldn't even return my calls when I was pregnant and scared." "I never got your calls." The words tumbled out desperately. "I didn't know, Jasmine. I swear to you, I didn't know about them." Something flickered in her eyes. Confusion, maybe doubt. "What are you talking about?" "My mother. She ... I stopped, realizing how insane it would sound. "She intercepted everything. She threatened you, paid you to disappear. She told me everything before she died." Jasmine stared at me for a long moment, the children clinging to her legs, sensing the tension even if they didn't understand it. "Mommy, who's that man?" Lily asked in a small voice. The question nearly destroyed me. I was that man, a stranger to my own children. "She's lying," Jasmine said finally, but her voice was less certain now. "Your mother never threatened me. I took the money because I had no choice, because you made it clear you didn't want me. I was a coward, I said, my voice breaking. I was weak and stupid, and I believed their lies about you. But I never stopped loving you. And these children, God, Jasmine, they're beautiful. She looked down at Lily and Lucas, then back at me. For just a moment, her guard dropped, and I saw the woman I'd fallen in love with. But then it snapped back up. You need to leave, she said quietly. We've built a life here. A good life. You can't just show up and destroy it. I don't want to destroy anything. I want to be their father. That conversation in the park was just the beginning. Jasmine didn't trust me, and honestly, I didn't blame her. But she agreed to meet me the next day, alone, to hear the whole truth. I told her everything. About my mother's deathbed confession. About the private investigator. About the threats and the money. I showed her the documents I'd found in my mother's papers after she died. Evidence of the payments, the cover-up, everything. Watching her face as the truth sank in was heartbreaking. The anger gave way to something deeper, a grief for the 3 years we'd all lost. She really did that, Jasmine whispered. She really threatened my family. I'm sorry, I said. I'm so sorry for all of it. For being weak, for not fighting harder for us, for missing their first steps and first words. It took weeks of careful conversations before she agreed to let me meet Lily and Lucas properly. Supervised visits at first, just an hour at a time. I was terrified and clumsy, but they were curious and surprisingly accepting. Are you really our daddy? Lucas asked during our third meeting, his small hand in mine. Yes, I said, my voice thick with emotion. I'm your daddy, and I love you both so much. 6 months later, we're taking it slow, rebuilding trust one day at a time. I've set up college funds for both children and bought a house near theirs. Jasmine is finishing law school, and I'm helping however I can. We're not together yet, maybe we never will be. But we're a family now, broken and healing, learning to forgive and move forward. Sometimes love gets a second chance, even when it seems impossible. Some mistakes can't be undone, but they can be forgiven. And sometimes that's enough to build something beautiful from the ashes. Sometimes the biggest mistakes lead to the most important discoveries. If this story touched your heart, please share it with someone who needs to hear about second chances. Subscribe for more stories about love overcoming obstacles, and let me know in the comments. Do you think Nathan deserves forgiveness? Your thoughts matter to me.